I'm Dr. Gregory Degnan, and today we're here to talk about portion size and how it relates to weight loss or weight maintenance. You know, there are a number of nutritional factors that play a role in weight loss, weight gain, or weight maintenance. We talk about a lot of them. We talk about ratios of macronutrients like fats and proteins and carbohydrates. We talk about timing of meals. Micronutrients is a really hot topic right now. We discuss a number of factors, but the reality is we often overlook the single most important and simplest factor that relates to weight loss or weight gain, and that is portion size and its impact on our total calorie intake. The reality is we all know we live in a supersized society. Food portions, whether they're prepackaged in a bag on a shelf or whether they're presented at a restaurant on a plate, tend to be excessive. That's the society we live in. Even the nutritional facts that we find printed on our prepackaged foods tend to be misleading. When you read the calories per serving, it may sound great, but we very rarely then transmit how many servings there are in that package, and it becomes difficult, therefore, for us to know what our intake really is. It's important that we recognize the many invisible factors that contribute to our excessive eating and to overeating and what I often call mindless eating. These factors range from the optical illusions provided by plate sizes to the subliminal temptations we get by treats which are present and clearly visible in a glass jar. So today what I want to discuss is some common sense tips to help avoid excessive portion size and mindless overeating. Before eating, divide your plate. The general rule is to take that plate and divide it in half, fill one half with fruits and vegetables, and then take the other half and divide it again so that you have quarters. On one quarter, place your meat, fish, or poultry portion, and on the other quarter, place your starch. That gives you a general sense for what's going to give you a balanced meal with reasonable apportionment of your calories. Limit your choices. The more different treats or snacks you have available in that pantry, the more likely you are to sample them all and lose track of your portion size and total calorie intake. Pre-portion those treats. You know, the reality is research has shown that the bigger the package, the more you will pour out of it at each setting and each serving. So take those large pre-packaged treats and put them into smaller baggies to control your portion size at each individual eating session. Avoid distractions while eating, and this is a big one. We all have a tendency to turn on the TV, turn on music, or try to get work done while we eat. That distracts you not only from how much you're eating, but we all have a tendency to continue the eating process while that activity is going on. And inevitably, that will lead to increased portion size and increased calorie intake. Along those same lines, you want to avoid other types of mindless eating. What I call the pre-meal munch platter. It's dangerous. We rarely track how much we're taking off that platter when it comes to the cheese and crackers or the pepperoni or the other appetizers. And as a result, we lose track of our calorie intake. When dining out, tell them no to the pre-dinner bread basket. Or if you do want that bread basket, tell them to ensure that there's only one piece of bread or one roll per person in that basket. That allows you to better track how much you're taking in without having to think about it. At home, use a low-cal filler, such as a veggie tray for that mindless pre-meal munch. Pre-meal conversation and a large platter of food are a disaster waiting to happen when it comes to being able to track portion size and calorie intake. The other option is make the good-for-you things readily available. Those are the things you want to munch on. Make them available and accessible. Serve those things family style. When you set your table, have your fruits, your vegetables, your salad readily accessible on the table, and have your higher calorie content foods off to the side on a platter so that you have to make a conscious effort to get up and go get more of those things which are going to add to your calorie intake significantly. It is very important to watch out for what I call the seafood diet. If you see it, you eat it. Studies have shown that foods that are readily visible are eaten in much larger quantities. So keep the candy and the cookies and the treats in a drawer, not in a clear glass jar, and make your fruits and your vegetables readily visible and out. It will lead to much better eating habits. Think before you drink. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes we make. We are far less often aware of the calorie content of what we drink, and we often don't track how much we drink. And this is not just for alcoholic beverages, this is for the beverages we drink with a meal. We tend not to count those calories because we don't think of them as a food portion. Also, remember that the eye is a very poor judge of volume, and we tend to pour less and drink less when we use taller, thinner glasses than when we use shorter, wider glasses. Just always bear in mind the calories you're getting when you're swallowing that liquid. And along those lines, think of the restaurant model. Placing that, or having the practice of placing that glass of water next to your calorie drink is a great way to keep you from going back for a second or third helping of that high calorie drink. And again, you're far less likely to think about and count the calories of that second and third glass if you go there. One of the simplest and most effective ways to decrease portion size is to downsize our dishes. 60% of Americans clean their plate regardless of the size of the plate. If you take an 8 to 10 inch plate and fill it with spaghetti and meatballs, that looks like a good portion and a suitable meal. If you take that exact same portion size and put it on a 14-inch plate, it looks like a meager meal and you are much more likely to go back for seconds. That counts for your bowls and your cups. Downsize those things off which you eat and you will eat less. Even those who are trying hard, really trying to track their calories, they're frequently off base because even if they know the calories in a portion size, it can be very difficult to know what that portion size is. It doesn't help to know how many calories are in a 3-ounce piece of meat if when that meat is served to you, you can't tell how much is 3 ounces. So what we have a tendency to do is pick that number. If it tells me 100 calories in 3 ounces, whatever serving comes in front of me, I tend to count as 100 calories. So the key is to be able to identify everyday objects that you can wrap your head around so that you can gauge what those portion sizes are. We generally recommend that you gauge your portion sizes using common everyday objects to which you can compare. Examples, that 3-ounce piece of chicken or meat that I talked about, that's about the size of a deck of cards. 1 cup of almost anything is about the size of a baseball. A half a cup of almost anything is what it would take to fill a standard light bulb. 1 ounce of lunch meat, when you're looking at that deli counter, is about the size of a compact disc. And 1 ounce of almost any foodstuff, from cheese to cottage cheese, is going to be about the size of a golf ball. And if you can start thinking of your portions with regard to those everyday objects, you will get a much better handle on what you're eating. There are a number of excellent online sources that are helpful for giving you the ability to gauge these portion sizes accurately. WebMD actually has a printable wallet-sized portion guide that not only gives the everyday objects, but gives many samples of regular meals and snack foods so that you can get some sense of what your portions are. But the bottom line is this: it does not help to know how many calories are in a specific portion if you're unaware of how large that portion is when you take it in. And it doesn't help you to know how many calories are in a portion if you're not tracking how many portions you are taking in. So the key is develop the ability to gauge those portion sizes and make sure that you don't engage in mindless eating.